Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. During the previous nights, lots of updates we received. The Russians and Ukrainians were attacking each other using hundreds of drones and missiles. First, let's talk about the Russian attack. The Minister of Defense of Ukraine this morning reported that during the previous night, the Russians used just 89 drones, and this is the smallest number of drones that the Russians used since the beginning of the previous week. And according to this number, we can make a conclusion that currently the Russians have already concentrated around 500 or 600 drones for the massive attack that most likely is going to take place within the next several days or maybe even hours. As of the previous nights, explosions were recorded, lots of explosions were recorded through the southwestern parts of the Odessa region and on the territory of the Black Sea. Pro-Ukrainian sources reported that during the previous night, the Russians attacked a vessel that just left the Odessa port infrastructure. The previous strike the Russians carried out on the 20th of June of 2026, the sources reported that a vessel was destroyed in the area of Romania, of the territorial waters of Romania, and today, as you can see, the Russians repeat the strike, which means that now the Russians are trying to restore control or to restore their initiative through the Western Black Sea, and now we start receiving more and more updates on this matter. Another important situation is the settlement of Mayaki. During the previous night, we received a report that the Russians attacked the territory of the settlement, and most likely the Russians were attacking bridges in the area of the settlement of Mayaki along the river of Dniester. The Russians right now intensify their attacks on bridge infrastructure of Ukraine. Since the beginning of June, we received already probably dozens of reports about attacks on bridges, logistics, gas stations in this area, as well as in the area of the city of Zaporizhzhia. Another important video was published from the area of the settlement of Ochakov. During the night, we received a report that the Russians were bombing this territory, and this morning on the 22nd of June, we received this video where we can see how Russians were conducting reconnaissance operation over the island, over the Kazachyi island, and then the Russians began bombing this territory with aviation. As you can see, this island with certain facilities are located right in front of the Kinburn Spit. Maybe the Ukrainians were planning to carry out a landing operation from this area, but the Russians managed to discover the redeployment of Ukrainians through the Kazachyi island, and the Russians began bombing and attacking this territory. So all these updates about attacks on logistics, about attack on the Kazachyi island, about the strikes on the territory of the city of Ochakov, and strikes on vessels that were moving along the territorial waters of Odessa mean just one thing: the Ukrainians are preparing something, and most likely in coming days they will try to attack Crimea or the southwestern parts of the Kherson region, and we're talking about, of course, the landing operation. Now let's move further. The city of Zaporizhzhia. Would like to remind you that yesterday the Russians were attacking bridges through the city. Today, according to information we have, the Russians attacked several objects of energy infrastructure. In this video, we can see an oil base of Ukraine in the western parts of the city. As a result of attack, this oil base was destroyed. As you can see, the fuel crisis intensifies. Furthermore, the Russians destroyed another gas station in the most northwestern parts of the settlement. The Russians are trying to destroy Ukraine's logistics without any chances to restore the logistics through the southern, eastern, and the northeastern parts of Ukraine, so through the territory which is located along the line of combat contact. In this video, we can see another gas station that was destroyed by Russians as a result of attack. Too many explosions, too many attacks the Russians carry out these days. It seems that the Russians are preparing themselves for something bigger. And the city of Kharkiv, just yesterday we discussed that the Russians attacked the Poshta terminal, which is located to the west of the city. And this morning, pro-Russian sources published this video where we can see how exactly this attack was taking place. Here we can see probably several drones that were attacking the terminal. As a result of this attack, the terminal wasn't destroyed, it was just damaged, but most likely in coming days the Russians will carry out another attack. According to this video, there were just 4 attacks on this terminal, but most likely in coming coming days the Russians will repeat attacks and this terminal would be destroyed completely. Another video was published from the Kharkiv power station number 5. The Russians began bombing this power station. In this video we can see several strikes that were carried out by the Russians with drones and with missiles. The Russians began the preparation before the winter military campaign by attacking and destroying objects of energy infrastructure through the entire territory of Ukraine. Now let's talk about the Ukrainian attack. During the previous night, the Ukrainians launched hundreds of drones deep inside of the territory of Russia. Several sources stated that around 300 of drones were recorded above the territory of the Russian Federation, and according to different sources, the Ukrainians were attacking the city of Moscow and the Ukrainians were attacking through the southern regions. As for the city of Moscow, the sources reported that this attack was repelled by Russians somewhere between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. of the 22nd of June of 2026. We received lots of videos with Ukrainian drones flying over the territory of the Moscow region, and we received lots of reports how the Russians were installing additional air defense systems and how the Russians were destroying drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. And somewhere around at 12 p.m. of the 22nd of June of 2026, pro-Russian sources stated that this attack was repelled. Around 70 drones of the armed forces of Ukraine were completely destroyed. The Russians managed to defend the city of Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation. As for the southern regions, the Ukrainians during the previous 24 hours published this video where we can see how exactly the Ukrainians were attacking the city of Kerch yesterday. So this is the video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how exactly the Ukrainians between the 20th and the 21st of June of 2026 were attacking the city of Kerch, the air defense positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, and how the Ukrainians were attacking, destroying raiders, how the Ukrainians were attacking vessels, and so on. As a result of attack, the Russians suffered huge losses. So we have a satellite picture where we can see the differences between the dates, and according to these updates, we see that several fuel tanks on the territory of the city of Kerch were destroyed almost completely. Another important thing is that the Ukrainians, as a result of attack, destroyed a ferry. The car ferry Panagia, which was hit yesterday. So this is a satellite picture. You know that the Russians don't allow to use the Crimean bridge for fuel purposes. The Russians use ferries for these purposes. So we have a site, parking site in this area. They wait for a ferry, and then a ferry brings the Russian fuel tanks from this side of to these sides of the Black Sea and the of Azov Sea. And of course the number of these ferries are limited, so we can see that now the Ukrainians are trying to destroy them. If the Ukrainians are able to destroy all these ferries, then the Russians will not be able to use this type of infrastructure for the logistic purposes. So this is a very important situation. Furthermore, somewhere around at 12 p.m., we start receiving reports that the Ukrainians began attacking deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation in the direction of the city of Voronezh. But there is a very important difference. The sources reported that the Ukrainians were using not drones, but that the Ukrainians were using cruise missiles. Several military experts stated that the Ukrainians were attacking the city of Voronezh with Storm Shadow cruise missiles. There were at least 4 impacts by the time I started making this video, but the sources reported that there were 8 more missiles recorded in the direction of the settlement of Voronezh, which means that today we will receive additional updates on this matter. The sources reported that according to media, the Ukrainians were attacking objects of military infrastructure, a facility that the Russians were using for the military purposes, a factory of semiconductor devices, and this factory, as you can see, was destroyed probably. Most likely in coming days and hours we will receive additional satellite pictures. We will be able to understand the exact damage that the Ukrainians managed to deal by attacking this facility. As for this attack, with the first important detail, this attack carried out by the Ukrainians was carried out with the United Kingdom missiles, cruise missiles of Storm Shadow, and today we received the report that the United Kingdom, UK Prime Minister minister, known for his anti-Russian statements and support for the Kiev, has announced his resignation. So most likely this is the way how he decided to resignate, by giving the Ukrainians the green lights to attack deep inside of the territory of Russian Federation with Storm Shadow missiles. Maybe he wants additional escalation that will allow him to save his position or something like this, because obviously now the Russians most likely will retaliate, because the Storm Shadows is not a strike with Storm Shadow is not something like a strike with a drone or something like this. The Russians will retaliate, and most likely during the upcoming 24 hours. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction, where the Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation. Now the clashes are taking place for the settlement of Stepnogorsk, and pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see the only logistic bridge to the south of Stepnogorsk that the Ukrainians tried to destroy during the previous days. In this video we can see an aviation strike on the 21st of June of 2026. The Ukrainians attacked this bridge that basically connects the cities of Kamensk, Stepnogorsk and Vasilievka. If the Ukrainians were able to destroy this bridge, of course the Russians would start suffering huge problems with logistics in this area. This attack means that the Ukrainians are going to continue their offensive operation in this area. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Konstantinovka direction. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. According to information we have, the armed forces of the Russian Federation improved their positions through the northern parts of the city of Konstantinovka, and these are the changes on the ground between the previous 2 days. So this is the end of the 20th of June, this is the end of the 21st of June of 2026, and this is the beginning of the 22nd of June. These changes were made based on the video that were published by pro-Russian sources, and in this video we can see a Russian soldier that raised, two Russian soldiers that raised Russian flags through the northern parts of the settlement of Konstantinovka in the area of the Chervony micro-district. Based on this video we have adjusted the map, and we see that up to 95% of the city of Konstantinovka have already collapsed. Now let's move further. Let's discuss the situation through the northern Slavyansk direction. The Russians continue the battle for the city of Lyman, and these are the changes on the ground. And according to these changes, we see that the Russians also control up to 95% of the settlement, and the Russians continue advancing. In coming days, the Ukrainians most likely would be forced to fall back from the area completely, and then the Russians will begin offensive operation further in the direction of the river of Seversky Donetsk with the purpose to cross the river and to attack the settlement of Slavyansk from the north. The situation around the Slavyansk-Konstantinovka area intensifies, and in coming days we'll receive more and more updates, and pro-Russian sources confirm that in coming days the Minister of Defense of the Russian will confirm both control over the cities of Lyman and Konstantinovka. And that's it for the short video. The military summary channel reminds us to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.